You've always got to wonder, why not? When's a better time? Now, I realize it does say open hours. I realize it does say open hours. These are the open hours plans. However, it's after hours because we are closed, but this is the plan. I just got done making a bunch of phone calls, catching up. You gotta play catch up once in a while. The question of the day: CD, DVD, USB. You can't always use one in the place of other. Some laptops, and I got a post going on. Actually, I was working on the post, and that's what gave me the idea to do the live stream about it, and I'll kind of cover the same thing. dtcomputers.online, the section What We Does. That's where the blog posts are. Newer laptops are starting to get smaller, lighter, thinner. You don't have an option for a DVD-ROM. Well, see, what was a CD-ROM, then DVD-ROM, DVD writer, and then at one point people would get into using, externals on laptops like that. And then another common way of doing things, well, that came to be USB. Much faster than CD and DVD. We are going to go ahead and see the difference between the two if I can get this blasted Toshiba here to boot. Yes. It doesn't seem like it wants to boot to the disk. So maybe we need to go into BIOS. You gotta love Windows 8, 8.1, or 10 computers and up are nightmares. Yeah. Usually you have to do a full power reset with the battery unplugged to get it to go to the BIOS or boot options. And I'm not sure what the boot option key is on a Toshiba. However, we're going to give it a shot. F12 is what I was thinking, but alright, so it is going to boot the disk, hopefully. We'll go ahead and get this one turned on. And we are running optical drive on the left, USB drive on the right. The CD started first. I realized it's probably going to be a little hard to see with glare and whatnot. You can see Windows 10 loading here. This is an older computer. Windows 7 loading. 5 gigs of RAM each, a 4 gig stick and a 1 gig stick. It was the most even way to split them. This is older hardware. This would be a dual core. This is also a dual core with hyper-threading, so essentially 4 cores, but still a dual core processor, 3rd gen Intel, AMD. So yeah, older computer with USB. Will it get through? Okay, so we've already got up to the Windows interface first. Let's go ahead and hit next, install now. So I guess it's a little bit of a race because we're still loading from the disk here. Still loading to that first initial screen with, it gives you the options. You hit next, install now. Okay, and it looks like I'm going to try and do this as fair as possible. Setup is starting here. Okay, we are to the next screen. Next, install now. I accept. So we're doing Windows 7, Windows 10 setup, custom. It is a raw drive in both machines, I might add. I'm going to go ahead and hit, we'll wait. We'll start the race when both of them are loaded up to this screen. Even though the older, slower computer with the USB drive did get to this point when it was started later than the one with the optical drive. But there's situations where you use both. Some machines are just a pain to boot off of USB, and others are not. Alright, custom. Alright, we are at potentially the same screen on Windows 10 on the left, Windows 7 on the right. I don't know that I'm going to be able to hit next both at the same time, but we're going to try. I don't know that they will come up. Okay, potentially the same screen. Now we're going to let those go for a little bit and see what happens. What will the outcome be? I don't want to say this is that much older. They're roughly like maybe a generation apart as far as hardware goes. Both DDR3, both 5 gigs of RAM, both conventional hard drives. Conventional meaning a hard drive, not an SSD. We're not running with super speed with an SSD or whatever. We got the old spinny hard drives in, the ones you don't want to bump around too much. Oh, where are we at? Let's go right. We can get another view here. We can't see the screens. Yeah, we like that a little better. We'll go to the zoomed in. Maybe we can find a prop for both. How about we use the battery? So Windows 10 is at 1%. Windows 7, yeah, Windows 10 is at 4% now. Windows 7 is at 3, catching up quick and should pass it. Not much of a presentation, but it's what I had. It's what I was writing a post about today. And there are pros and cons to each. To list a few, USB, you can run into all kinds of problems. If it's a USB 2.0 drive plugged into a USB 2 port, you should be good. USB 3 drive plugged into a USB 3 port, Windows, whatever version, may not recognize that USB 3 port out of the box. You may need to load a driver in order for your install to work. If you run into that issue, go ahead, pull your USB 3.0 drive from the USB 3 port, plug it into the USB 2.0 port, and try the install again. You may find that you don't have to load a driver this time. Optical disk drive works, but not always easy. If the computer is a Windows 8, if the computer originally came with 8, 8.1 or Windows 10 on it, then the potential problem you could be running into is that it was set up for UEFI, not CSM. It's not going to load legacy stuff. It's going to load the new Universal Extensible Firmware Interface, I think is what that is, maybe? I don't know. But it's going to be set up for secure boot, and secure boot and UEFI. Doesn't always like booting. Most Windows install disks are set up as to work with CSM, to work non-UEFI. So that's where you run into problems with DVDs, CDs with the operating system on it on newer computers. There was a midway point, from what I remember, where you could go either way, and this is one of those. And you can even set up newer computers today, CSM instead of UEFI, with an MBR or master boot record disk versus a GPT disk. GPT, you can have a lot more partitions. MBR, you're limited with the amount of partitions you can have on it. And why do the makers care about this, or why would anybody else care about number of partitions on any hard drive? Well, moving on along the timeline from CD to DVD to USB for install media, Windows and manufacturers started getting away from that and putting, you didn't download or buy your recovery disk. It's already on the hard drive. Where that fails is when your hard drive fails, then that recovery partition is toast. So that's the little presentation for today. Letting them race. Let's flip back over quick. Alright, Windows 10 may actually beat it. We're at 59-60%, Windows 7 54%. Both started at the same time. This computer is a little faster, so USB may not pay off here on the right in this situation. It's trying now. It's really trying to catch up. This one's only held a couple percent lead. The only other thing to take into account is that it's Windows 10 instead of Windows 7. So 10 a little faster, works better with newer hardware. 7, not all drivers are installed by default. On 10 most are. So which one will it be? Going over here, I know it's not going to focus, I have it set to manual focus. We are grabbing some data. Exactly where? I don't know. That's what we have to look for. And yes, we are grabbing data remotely. Well, I guess we'll check back on this later. I don't know where. I know what folder I need, I just don't know where it is. So we're not going to do this boring thing. We'll finish this up later. Alright. 81, 80. So, newer hardware with an optical drive versus older hardware and a USB may be about even. If we switch the places, USB of Windows 10 on newer hardware to Windows 7 on an optical drive on older hardware, I'm guessing 10 is going to win every time. I tried to keep it as fair as possible on both of these to get it to work that way. But, alright, they've tied up 88. Will the older, slower computer, slightly older, slower computer, okay, 90, flipped over to 90. I've never actually done this, so 91, 92, we're at 91 here, 92, 92, 93, ooh, and let's go to right camera. So this little train wreck sideshow that I have going on of installing with the optical drive, installing with a USB flash drive, 96, 94. And this was originally supposed to happen with this laptop and this desktop. However, reinstalling Windows did not become necessary with this one. So I didn't do it that way. Plus, I didn't think it was fair. Older AMD computer versus a newer Core i5 Dell XPS tower. Definitely not fair. 98, 96. Let's go back to the zoomed in version and see. Realize you can't see these, but we're trying. Alright, 100% and 97. So only a little faster on the older, slower, slightly older, slower computer, but USB is the way I prefer to do it. A lot faster. Literally can take your, if we're doing optical drive on this, usually about between 10 and 20 minutes with the optical drive, down to roughly 5, 6, 7 minutes maybe. And then after the percentage, you do have the installing features, installing updates, and completing installation or finishing up if you're on Windows 8.1 or newer. Okay. Let's go to reboot. We're going to let them reboot shortly here and see who gets up to. Okay, restart now. Not an option to restart now, but it's working on it. So wow. I guess we I guess we could have took bets on this. Restart now. Should have took bets on it, for real, to see who will be victorious. I know you, did you lock yourself in there? Are you trying to boot the installer? No, you didn't. Okay. Not as exciting as a horse race or a dog race, granted. I will give anybody that. However, still fair to say, I think the older one's gonna be victorious in the long run. Each of them have a slightly different setup. So we go to the setup screen. Okay. I mean, how would you call this? It's not really a fair contest, but I tried to make it as fair as possible by using the older technology for the install here on the left on this slightly newer hardware, a faster install method on the older hardware. I don't know how you can make this fair. I guess get identical machines and do it that way. Okay, so 10 may win? I don't know. 7 is completing its installation. 10 is getting devices ready. And getting ready. 10 may pull it out of the bag. Newer hardware with older install tech. Or older install method. Anybody that does any of this stuff or tinkers around with Windows, the 1803 Windows 10 feature update was crazy. I feel bad for anybody that tried doing that over Wi-Fi and did not have like a solid Wi-Fi card in their computer that was like connected on the 5 gigahertz channel. You needed the 5 gigahertz channel because it had higher throughput, higher bandwidth, or more bandwidth than the 2.4 channel. And the 1803 feature update was just murder on wireless devices as far as how long it took to download. Connected to a LAN though, hardwired to your internet, no problem. I think 10's got it though. Safe to say 10 has it. Okay, I think we can close that one. Actually, I wanted that open, but it's fine. We'll go back right. Ooh, that's a lot of noise from next door. I've always wanted to do something like this. However, I didn't have identical computers where somebody wasn't waiting on them. These are just, you know, Frankensteins put together from various stuff, and closest I could get without being identical when considering Intel and AMD. So, I don't know. Just waiting to find out who's got it. Anyhow, while we're waiting on that, if we start hearing Cortana talking over here from the one on the left, then we know 10 has it. Unless we get the typical 7 boot up chime, which I don't think we'll get we'll get that after the initial setup. What else did I want to speak about? Alright, truth time. Going to setup. Yeah, I'm gonna say 10's got it now. 7's just here, kinda all its energy's you know, it's gassed out with the completing installation step. They don't need any more information right now. Microsoft, thanks. Boy, how would it do? How would it do with 10 on an older computer? 10 on an older computer. Ooh. Okay, so just a moment. After restart. Definitely not a sports commentator, but the tension is thick. The anxiety, anxiousness. Okay. Come on, Windows 7, you can do it. I think it has one more step after rebooting. It's gonna, you get the black screen with the little flashing color thing at the bottom. Unless it already did that, I can't remember. Yes, setup is preparing your computer for first use. So they're about at the same stage now as to where this one was before this one had rebooted. Same stage. The next one is the initial setup, where you type in your user info, and that is where the finish line is for each computer. I did not honestly think it would be this close. Okay. Windows 7. I don't want to say buy a nose or a head or buy a whole horse here, but yeah, 7. Okay. 7 got it by at least a laptop. A laptop length. Cortana is trying to load. So there you have it.
Hi there. I'm Cortana.
Shut up, Cortana. 3rd gen. What is it? Third? Yes, third gen Intel. So Ivy Bridge, 5 gigs of DDR3, AMD and AMD Vision. Dual core AMD. Oh, it's a dual core processor and AMD graphics. Slightly newer computer. Older OS install method. Yeah, slightly newer computer, older OS install method, slightly older computer, faster, newer install method. Am I going to do another one of these? Probably not, but I would like to pit a USB versus a hard drive restoring from the recovery partition. If it was a similar length process, that would be nice, but when you do a reset or a refresh where you keep your files or delete all your files, takes much longer. So not really a fair contest. Maybe with an SSD, I still think the USB would win over that. As close to similar spec, coming both from the Intel camp and the AMD camp. Older hardware, Windows 7, older, more refined operating system. Want it, buy a laptop compared to the newer OS. But don't let that discourage anybody. I highly recommend Windows 10. If you are on 7, they're going to be dropping support for it. I suppose I could end of life. So end of life for Windows 7 for consumer. Let's check that. I guess it's all the same date. Okay, for which mainstream support ended January 13th, 2015. The extended support period ends on January 14th, 2020. So you have, what, a year and 3, and you're going to be moving on up to at least Windows 8.1 or possibly Windows 10. Highly recommend Windows 10. It will run on slightly older hardware. You can't go too old. And oh, my camera died. So we got to go to the right cam. I guess maybe it wasn't plugged in. So let's try this. We'll boot it back up. It was plugged in on the wall, just not to the camera. So with it back, can we go back? Yes. Okay, we're back. Yeah, definitely recommend Windows 10. I forget what I was saying when I heard the beeping from the camera above. I like it. I was real resistant. I tested it when they first gave it out for free. Didn't like it, went back to 7. 7 was tried and true. Found more and more reasons to jump over to 10, and once I did get away from 7 and gave 10 a thorough run through, and Microsoft started working out more and more bugs, I have stuck with 10. I don't have a need for 7 on a computer. Again, I don't work for any big corporation. We don't have any proprietary or old, deprecated and antiquated software that needs to run on 7 like some corporations and companies, banks, grocery stores. You know, some grocery stores are running on Windows XP for their fast lanes where you go, your self-checkouts are running on Windows XP. Crazy to think that. So if you don't have Windows 10, check it out. They used to give it out for free, but they don't anymore. I think you can still get the Windows 10 upgrade for assistive technologies maybe. I don't know. I know that that was free for a while too. I think they ended that free. Upgrade to Windows 10. Get a new computer. Highly recommended. I have no plans for tomorrow for open hours. We did open hours after hours. I should throw both in the title, huh? But I'm not going to. Thanks again. Anybody that stayed for whatever part they came in the race, awesome. If you were here for the whole race, still here, thank you. I appreciate it. Subscribe on YouTube. Comment, like, share it, please. It means a lot. It means more than anyone thinks when you do, you know, subscribe and share, get people watching this. I don't know. Anything anybody wants to see, can contact me on Facebook. If you want to see something, have an idea for an open hours or after hours, or you want to be a guest on the podcast that we do on Sundays with Tim, Aaron, and myself, contact us, antisocialexp@gmail.com. We have the ASC Podcast Facebook page. If you look on my profile or search, let's try and search it out real quick to see how people can find this. Get out of the way, cord. Now, you know what? That's not really a fair trial. Let's go to a computer that has never went. So we're going to simulate anybody and everybody else's computer out there. And just so it kind of works and gets all fuzzy and blurry, we will switch over to autofocus. Alright, we are autofocusing. I don't know if it's going to keep it. Let's minimize that. We don't need that. We're going to pull up Edge and Chrome. So I think these would be the two most common. If you're using Internet Explorer and getting deprecated, they are going to drop support for it if they have not. There is our Chrome welcome. So let's just simply Google ASE Podcast, Facebook, and this is pretty much from a computer that's never went to it. So ASE Podcast Home, Facebook. You can find it on Google just by simply Googling ASE Podcast Facebook. It will pull up the page, and going over to Edge. Is the same thing going to work? Okay, and indeed it does. It should be the first result. Check it out. This is the live show that Tim, Aaron, and I do on Sundays. We are shooting for every Sunday at 2 p.m. Holidays, we'll probably roll it to the Saturday, the day before on Saturday, or Possibly we will do it on maybe the following Monday evening. Usually always shoot for every Sunday at 2. And this one is actually not ours. This one is Ace. So this did not come up. Oh. Podcast ASC. Okay, so it did not come up on this one. ASC Podcast Facebook. So on Edge, it will not come up. That was definitely a typo. What is a typo when you read it? When you misread something? I don't know. Okay, so if you're using Edge and you can't find it, look up my profile, NICCKENNEDY on Facebook, and you will find the little link for the live show. So, that was the laptop race. I'm not a sports commentator, that much has been made clear. I found it interesting. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe on YouTube, comment, like, share. Thank you, and we'll be back again tomorrow for open hours. We'll see you then.